Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Billy's world has been turned upside down on Young and Restless on more than one front, but if you thought his burgeoning romance with Sally was going to lend some stability to his life, you'd be wrong. What's about to happen is somehow both hella surprising and right on brand for the most wayward Abbott. Discovering that his instincts were correct and Chelsea had cheated with Adam in Baltimore absolutely rocked Billy's world. Rather than take his pain out on her, the superior spiraler of the most dysfunctional sort instead took a torch to his professional life as well by firing his co-CEO Lily. To be fair, Lily was plotting against him. However, it still seemed like he was taking out his anger at Chels on his business partner, and thus shooting himself in the proverbial foot. Enter an exhausted Jill, who then yanked the business out from under him after hearing that he had, among other things, hired Phyllis Summers as his right hand. Never mind that he canned her promptly when asked to do so. The damage was done. There was, however, one takeaway from the short-lived partnership. Phyllis was the only one who had Billy's back throughout the entire ordeal. Billy made it clear to the feisty redhead, who also happens to be a highly controversial ex, given that they got together when she was still with his brother Jack, that they would not be revisiting their love affair whilst working together. We never even got a chance to see if they get turned on by their professional successes, because Phyllis' tenure was so short there were none. As Billy and Sally were both burned by Chelsea and Adam's one-night stand, it made more sense that they would gravitate toward one another and eventually have what is definitely not revenge sex. That brings us to the present. But what about the future? Does Silly have one together? The answer to that is, it's complicated. Or at least it's about to be. With Nick on white night duty with Sharon, and Jack still loved up with Diane despite appearances to the contrary, the writers have apparently decided that they acted too hastily in dismissing the idea of a Billy and Phyllis romantic reunion, and they're about to backtrack in a big way. Yep, you read that right. The powers that be are launching a Sally/Billy/Phyllis triangle, as head writer Josh Griffith confirmed to Sode, and by doing so will also reignite the battle of the redheads. As many will remember, Phyllis did not take kindly to Jack dating Sally or to Sally flirting with Nick right under her nose. Things came to a head at Adam's Newman Media launch, and got even worse when Sally's deception sent Summer packing to Italy. Though these grievances are largely bygones at this point, we suspect they'll add fuel to the fire of this coming love triangle. How Phyllis ends up back in Billy's orbit remains to be seen, but both are out of jobs and looking to prove something. So there's a decent chance they'll team up again, perhaps to try and best Victor. What better aphrodisiac could there possibly be than getting one over on the mustache? In a small town nestled between green rolling hills and a sleepy river, there was a peculiar little cafe, the Yellow Rose, that became a silent witness to a drama of love, betrayal, and self-discovery that no one could have predicted. It was here that Billy Set, a charming but mysterious man, entered the lives of two women, Sally and Phyllis, setting off a whirlwind that would change all their lives forever. Billy Set wasn't the kind of man who made a loud entrance. He arrived quietly, almost as though he were trying to blend into the background. Yet it didn't take long for his presence to be felt. He had an air of mystery about him. Dark, thoughtful eyes, tousled hair, and a smile that seemed both welcoming and distant at the same time. It was the kind of smile that made people wonder what he was really thinking. Sally, a regular at the cafe, was the first to notice him. She sat at her usual corner booth, the one by the window where she could watch the rain fall softly on the cobblestone street, sipping her coffee in silence. Sally was the type of woman who kept to herself. She had a warmth about her that drew people in, but she was careful with her heart. After a string of failed relationships, she had become wary of falling in love again. Phyllis, on the other hand, was everything Sally wasn't. Outgoing, vivacious, and full of life, she was the town's social butterfly. She knew everyone, and in return, everyone knew her. Phyllis had always been an open book when it came to matters of the heart. If she loved someone, she loved them fiercely, unapologetically. But this time, something was different. She wasn't the first to approach Billy, yet somehow, she found herself gravitating toward him, as if there was some magnetic pull between them that she couldn't explain. Billy didn't take long to notice both women. Sally caught his attention first with her quiet elegance, but it was Phyllis who drew him in with her lively energy. It wasn't long before the three of them began to exchange polite conversation, and Billy became a regular at the Yellow Rose. At first, it seemed harmless, just another charming face in a quiet town. But under the surface, things were beginning to shift in subtle and unexpected ways. Billy quickly became a fixture in Sally and Phyllis' lives. To Sally, he was an enigma, someone who could talk about the simplest of things, yet leave her feeling like she had learned something profound. They shared long conversations over coffee, talking about everything from poetry to philosophy to the mundane events of their daily lives. He had a way of making her feel both seen and understood, something she hadn't experienced in years. Phyllis, meanwhile, was charmed by Billy's reserved nature. She liked the challenge of breaking through his cool exterior, and slowly she did. They began spending more time together, going on long walks around the town, laughing at jokes that only the two of them understood. Phyllis had always been the one to wear her heart on her sleeve, and before long, she found herself drawn to Billy in a way that was far beyond mere friendship. At first, Sally didn't notice. She was too caught up in her own growing feelings for Billy, but the subtle changes in the way Phyllis looked at him didn't escape her. She found herself wondering if maybe something more was happening between them, but she couldn't quite bring herself to acknowledge it. She didn't want to believe that Phyllis, her closest friend, would steal away the one thing that had finally made her heart beat faster after so many years of loneliness. Phyllis, for her part, felt guilty. She never intended for things to go this far. But the attraction she felt for Billy was undeniable. She wasn't sure what it was about him that had her so captivated. Maybe it was his mystery, or perhaps it was the way he made her feel like she was the only one in the room. But the more time she spent with him, the more she realized that she couldn't pretend to be just friends anymore. The problem was, she didn't want to hurt Sally. She didn't want to lose their friendship, but she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward Billy. The tension that had been building between the three of them came to a head one rainy afternoon, when Sally and Phyllis found themselves in the cafe together, facing a choice they could no longer avoid. Billy had just left after another one of their long conversations, leaving a lingering silence in the room. Sally was the first to speak. "Phyllis, what's going on?" Her voice was soft, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. She had known for a while that something was happening between Phyllis and Billy, but she had hoped it was just her imagination. Now, looking into her friend's eyes, she could see the truth written on Phyllis's face. Phyllis hesitated, looking down at her coffee cup. She didn't know how to put it into words without hurting Sally. "I didn't mean for it to happen, Saul," she said quietly. "But I think I'm falling for him." There it was, the confession that had been hanging in the air for weeks. Sally felt her heart sink, but she didn't allow herself to cry. Instead, she took a deep breath and nodded. "I guess I was hoping it wasn't true," she said, her voice steady. "I've been feeling the same way about him." There was a long silence between them, a silence that seemed to stretch on forever. In that moment, they both realized something. No matter how much they cared for Billy, their friendship had to come first. The love triangle had become something much more complicated than any of them had anticipated. Over the next few days, Billy found himself caught in the middle of an emotional storm. Both Sally and Phyllis confronted him separately, each admitting their feelings for him. Billy, who had never intended to hurt either of them, was faced with a difficult choice. But as he listened to both women, he realized that the situation wasn't as simple as choosing one over the other. The truth was, Billy didn't have a clear answer. He had deep feelings for both Sally and Phyllis, but he also recognized the importance of their friendship. He knew that, whatever he chose, someone would be hurt, and it was a responsibility he wasn't sure he was ready to bear. In the end, Billy made a decision that wasn't about love, but about honesty. He chose to walk away, giving Sally and Phyllis the space they needed to rediscover themselves. It was painful, but it was the only way forward. As he left the Yellow Rose for the last time, Billy knew one thing for sure. Love was messy, complicated, and often unpredictable. But sometimes, the most important thing was knowing when to let go. And so, life went on in the little town. Sally and Phyllis, though bruised by the experience, grew stronger in their friendship. They learned that love wasn't just about finding the right person, but about being true to themselves. And perhaps, in time, love would find its way back to them. But for now, they had each other. And that was enough.